I'm going to introduce first Rita Chudnowski, who is from the Coalition of Childcare Advocates of BC, and her topic is, I love this one, $10 a day daycare.
We don't really need to say more, right?
I don't have any kids, but I still am in favor of $10 a day daycare.
So thank you very much. And for those of you who read the program, I am replacing Sharon Gregson. So I'm not a former school trustee. I'm a community advocate and activist, as are lots of school board trustees, and very proud to have a long history with the Coalition of Childcare Advocates of BC. As Chris said, I'm here today to just provide a bit of an opening for a conversation about our $10 a day childcare plan. And first of all, I want to ask how many of you have heard of the $10 a day childcare plan? All right, good, okay, good. And that's good news from our point of view. And some of you have it, and we're on the verge of our 4th edition, so there'll be more, but there's lots of other information. So I want to start by saying that both the conception and development and mobilization around this plan was initiated by 2 women-led grassroots organizations, the Coalition of Childcare Advocates of BC and the Early Childhood Educators of BC. And that partnership at the very beginning of this process has really proved to be critical to its success to date. And it offers, this initiative, which is how I'm wanting to talk about it today, offers a concrete, innovative solution to the childcare crisis facing women, families, cities, and communities across BC and beyond. Now, I don't know how many of you are from outside of British Columbia, but I do want to comment that as compared to other provinces, in BC, cities and municipalities do not have a legislated statutory responsibility for childcare. And yet it is often at the city and municipal level that locally elected politicians and school board trustees hear on a day-to-day basis about the crisis that families are facing. So the City of Vancouver has a long history of having been quite active on the question of childcare, and later I'll talk about how that early partnership with the city was really important in the success of the plan. But we fully understand that even with the decades of commitment at the civic level in Vancouver and progressive Vancouver school boards, cities on their own cannot and will not be able to solve the childcare crisis in communities. And yet, without a solution to that crisis, cities are not actually going to be able to work for women. They're not going to be able to work for women, whether we are mothers, whether we're early childhood educators, whether we're grandmothers, or whether we're women who want to be involved in the civic, economic, political, and cultural life of our communities. So what did we do about this? I want, in the short time I have, to comment both on the content of our initiative and the process. First of all, the content. The content responds to a very real crisis, but a crisis that women have, in spite of 30 years plus on this issue, of work on this issue, women have internalized. Women still feel guilt, personal responsibility, and shame about the childcare crisis that they face. And part of what this initiative has done is to name it and put it out there in the public eye. It is a real crisis, and it is a crisis characterized by 4 factors. High fees. Do you know what childcare costs? What do you think childcare costs in the City of Vancouver? Childcare is the 2nd highest expense for young families, costs more than university, and in the City of Vancouver today we have fees as high as $1,900 a month. Low wages is the 2nd indicator of the crisis. The field is overwhelmingly employed by women, right? Employs women, and women with college degrees, college certificates who are not earning a living wage in this province. So it's characterized by high fees, low wages, and way too few spaces. We still only have licensed space, a quality space for 20% of children. We also, and I don't have time to go into this, but we can discuss it if you want, the crisis is also manifest in the fact that recently we are seeing the growth in British Columbia of large-scale corporate commercial childcare, including a company that is the first childcare company in Canada to be listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange. This is absolutely not the solution, but it is the market-based response. So first of all, the content responds to a real crisis. Secondly, it builds on very well-established evidence, but it doesn't repeat the evidence. The evidence could fill this room that children and women have a right under the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child that Canada signed on to, a right to access quality, affordable early childhood services. Secondly, that public investment in the early years pays off, socially and economically. Thirdly, that high-quality experiences in the early year promote healthy, lifelong impacts, and poor quality experiences do harm. And finally, that current approaches are not working. Thirdly, the initiative offers a concrete and bold solution. After 30 years of describing the problem, we like to say that we have moved from complaining to campaigning. We are putting out a viable, doable, innovative, concrete solution, and we have engaged women in designing that solution. So women across the province, whether they're family child care providers, early childhood educators, mothers, see themselves reflected in the plan. And finally, at the content level, we are offering concrete policy solutions that are easy to understand and will, in fact, make it possible for women to fully participate in their community, which are transformative. And I just want to point out three. The first is the branding of $10 a day. The plan calls for publicly funded childcare where fees are capped at $10 a day for full-time care, $7 for part-time, and no fee for families with annual incomes under $40,000. The single most significant thing government could do to reduce women and children's poverty. The second policy solution is to raise early childhood educators' wages. The studies are clear and the lived experience is clear. And I'm way more about lived experiences than the studies, but I can quote, if you want the studies, they're there. Early childhood educators, the plan calls for raising their wages to $25 an hour on average, plus benefits. And investment in the wages of early childhood educators is one of the biggest infrastructure multipliers of any economic sector. The previous panel, the thing that I'm waiting for in terms of Canada Action or whatever it's called, is for investment in the services that women need and women deliver to actually be considered equal infrastructure investment to the roads and the bridges and the hard hats, but that's another topic. We're also proposing to bring in new legislation that enshrines the right of women and their children to access quality, affordable care. This is not a legislated right in British Columbia, the way that access to public education is. And to move responsibility with funds to democratically elected school boards. In short, the policy options offer people a vision of how we can transform these fragmented patchwork of user fee, market-based services into a democratically governed and delivered system that is accepted and expected in every city and community. At the process level, there's a couple of things I want to highlight that we think are transformative. The first is, and I want to say this very proudly, that the process and the plan are based on a set of values that are at the core of quality early childhood. Many things, as people who know me in the room will know, make me mad. But one of the things that really makes me mad is when I hear the media talk about politicians or people in power who are behaving badly, saying they're behaving like children, they're behaving like 2-year-olds. And I want to say we should only be so lucky as to have our political and policy leaders operating like children are supported and encouraged to operate in quality early childhood. So they are values that say that we all thrive in nurturing, caring relationships. They are values that say that children and women have a right to be respected for who we are now, not just who we will become. 3-year-olds are not just about what they will become when they contribute to the economy. They have rights now as citizens. And values which are open to learn, willingness to trust, and a generosity of spirit. We think that these values actually reflect women's ways of knowing and caring, and that by embedding them in this initiative, we have supported women across this province to speak to this initiative with a level of genuineness that is new for them. They are not trying to turn themselves, the early childhood educators of this province are no longer feel the need to turn themselves into something else in order to be treated with respect and equality. They are taking the values of their program out the doors of childcare programs, and we're cheeky enough to believe that that's actually what the world needs and can transform the world. The second thing I want to highlight is that we, in terms of the community engagement process, we took a bit of a leap at the beginning. Rather than going out in typical kind of consultation processes and asking people what they thought, we looked at what we thought was working elsewhere, we looked at our communities, and we took concrete suggestions and options out to community and said, what do you think about this? That transformed the dialogue from a description of the problem to a real examination of the solutions, and started to help reframe this from problem to solution. It also enabled us to encourage people who didn't like the ideas in our original draft to offer alternative suggestions, because we were very clear that the status quo to us was not an acceptable fallback position. So based on that process, we released a plan about to go into the 4th edition. We've distributed thousands. And since the plan's release, we have engaged in a wide range of community engagement processes to broaden support and deepen our understanding. The first is partnership. As I said at the beginning, this is a partnership initially between 2 organizations. Very early on, the City of Vancouver was an early partner in this, both in terms of funding and in terms of political support across all civic bodies. So City Council, School Board, Park Board, Joint Child Care Council, and Vancouver Public Library. And that early support from the City of Vancouver was really critical to our ability to gain credibility and to move the plan to other municipalities. We now have a growing range of partners, for example, a very strong partnership with the BC Poverty Reduction Coalition. The second part of the process is that we have tried to develop a series of tools and approaches to support women in their communities to become and feel very empowered to be childcare champions. And those include community outreach, extensive website, fact sheets, posters, bumper stickers, but also in order to reach out to younger women, both who have children, and the growing number of young women who want to have children and can't, because they can't afford it. Wow. So the right to have children is becoming a luxury of the rich. Here's another lens on the poverty question. Extensive use of social media and Facebook, Twitter, etc. We've also really worked hard to reach out to diverse communities and engaging in deepening dialogue with Aboriginal communities, young families, businesses, and so on. And as I mentioned, a critical relationship with the City of Vancouver that has enabled us to get this initiative onto other agendas, the GVRD, local, lower mainland, lower governments, Union of BC municipalities. And very significantly, the City of Vancouver has continued, while being a big supporter of the plan, to take action on childcare. Rather than to say, we can't do it alone, so we won't do anything, their advocacy and the advocacy of cities across the country is so much stronger when they continue to do what they can, recently allocating last year's surplus in the budget to childcare. So together with the city and partners, we have built unprecedented mobilization around childcare. Never has the issue received more attention, and it is not just the issue that's receiving attention. We have, and I used to hate this word, but now, we have successfully branded $10 a day childcare. And every politician is asked regularly, where do you stand on it? Organizational support for the plan now represents over 1 million British Columbians and includes 18 BC municipalities, 17 boards of education, over 100+ community organizations and social justice movements, every major trade union in British Columbia, and even the Surrey Board of Trade. The issue had a higher profile, 30 seconds, yeah. The issue had a higher profile in the last provincial election than ever before. Of course, we are disappointed that the party elected has not yet committed to begin building the system we need. But as we have said every day since the election, the childcare crisis is not going away, and neither are we. Thank you.